Joining us now to discuss this and more is Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. He is the chair of the Democratic Governors Association. Governor, thank you for coming on. So you're one of a few Democrats representing an otherwise red state. Are you confident at this stage in the midterm cycle that your party is doing enough to address those kitchen table issues to win back control in Washington in November?
Well, I know our Democratic gubernatorial candidates certainly are, because I'm about to get a lot of company of Democratic governors in what are perceived to be red states. Right now, Rob Sand is up in Iowa. Amy Acton would flip Ohio if the election were today. Keisha Lance Bottoms is running a great race in Georgia. Aaron Ford in Nevada. You even look at Florida, where we've now see polls that have David Jolly tied with whoever the Republican nominee will be. And each of our candidates are running to make life a little bit easier and a little bit better. Donald Trump's tariff policy has hammered our American families, making food and back-to-school supplies and everything else more expensive. His war with Iran has skyrocketed not just the price of gasoline, but diesel that every farmer needs and how we ship our goods around this country. The big, ugly bill is shuttering rural hospitals all across America and taking food off the table of hungry families. So yes, I believe we're going to flip the U.S. House of Representatives. We're going to make a strong run at the U.S. Senate, and we're going to win governor's races in places that people aren't expecting.
So you've talked a lot about the impact of President Trump's tariff policies on families and farmers, but not everyone in your party, as you know, is focused on the same sorts of issues. What would you advise progressive Democratic candidates to emphasize in the lead up to November so that they win their general election campaigns?
I think we are all talking about the same challenges to our American families. Now, some solutions may be different, but I can work with anybody who believes that every American child should have enough to eat, that people should be able to see a doctor when they're sick, that tariff policy needs to be based on sound economic principle and not whether the president is mad about Canadian wildfires or prosecution in Brazil. I think what you see are those candidates generating a lot of energy because people feel like the economy and our federal government are broken and they're looking for solutions. And we've got to make sure that we can create that economy that works for everyone, bring down food prices in the war in Iran and bring down the price of gasoline, make sure that people can see a doctor when they're sick. It's time for the U.S. government to start directly negotiating drug prices through Medicaid and Medicare, and then offer that price to every American regardless of their coverage, and to make an aspirational investment in housing that ties those federal dollars to the speed at which you break ground so we can actually solve this housing crisis. So I think that there's lots of energy on the Democratic side, lots of candidates that truly want to fight for a better United States of America and to reignite that American dream.
So before we move on to other important issues, I just wanted to hone in on Kentucky, my home state. The bourbon industry is obviously an important one there. How worried are you about Kentucky's economy being impacted by these tariffs?
Well, it's certainly hurting our bourbon industry, but Donald Trump is hurting us more with his comments and attitude towards Canada especially. Canada is Kentucky's #1 trading partner, and they've been a good trading partner, but because he has demeaned them, because he has questioned their sovereignty, they've taken Kentucky bourbon off their shelves, which hurts our economy, and honestly, every Canadian deserves good Kentucky bourbon. But in all seriousness, it's his rash approach. It's him saying whatever he feels at any time. Look at what he's talking about with Oman, a U.S. ally that is really hurting not just bourbon, but our standing in the world and our overall economy.
So I want to just talk a little bit, zoom out and just look at the Democratic Party as a whole right now. I know you do not share many of the views of the Democratic Socialists of America, but several of their candidates that have been endorsed by them have toppled establishment-backed Democrats throughout this cycle. Are you willing to consider that Democratic voters want new voices and different ideas leading the party?
I think what Democratic voters want is a country that works for them. You know, right now they're working hard, they're playing by the rules, but they're not getting ahead. The average age of first-time homeownership is 40 years old. They can't take their kids on the same vacation that they went on, and they see a federal government with President Trump that is as corrupt as any we've ever seen, enriching themselves at the expense of everyone else. So I think what voters want is fix the economy, which means bring down prices in the war in Iran, invest in housing, and they want this government fix too. So I believe it's time for big ideas, which many of these candidates are throwing out. I'm in favor of a fix the darn country constitutional amendment. It would outlaw partisan gerrymandering and enshrine parts of the Voting Rights Act right there in the Constitution. It would set term limits, not just for Congress, but for the Supreme Court too. No more gaming those appointments. It would overturn Citizens United and get corporate dollars out of our politics. And I think it's time for direct election of the president and vice president. So they've got to come to places like Kentucky, earn votes all over the country, and better reflect the country as a whole.
Yeah, I know you have been out there saying you want to get rid of the Electoral College and so forth, but just to drill down a little bit more on the DSA, do you believe that this is a blip on the radar for the Democratic Party with these more progressive socialist candidates being elected, or do you think that this could be the future of the Democratic Party and it could be changing before our eyes in the way the Republican Party changed with Trump? What do you think?
I think the Democratic Party has to be a big tent party where people can have different ideas on how we solve a problem as long as we agree that that problem exists. I mean, right now, the media is obsessed with differences in the Democratic Party when the differences between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are so stark. Yes, the DSA candidates and other Democrats may disagree on how to address hunger, but the big ugly bill the Republicans passed is causing it. Now, DSA candidates and other Democrats may disagree on the best way to provide health care, but we all want it to be accessible. While Republicans' big ugly bill is shuttering rural hospitals, and while they passed a tax break for the wealthy, they refuse to extend tax subsidies to everyday Americans. And so I know that the media wants to create this civil war inside the Democratic Party, but the differences, and you see it in the polling right now, between Democrats and Republicans, our Democrats want to make your life easier, and Republicans have made it a whole lot harder.
And just to be clear, we're not trying to cause a civil war. It's just trying to get your sense of where Americans are across the country in this moment as Americans grapple with affordability and other issues that are part of this conversation. I want to talk about the absence of longtime Kentucky Republican Senator Mitch McConnell from Washington due to health reasons. You've been attempting to get updates on his status, and you said in a Sunday interview you have not heard anything back from him. Has that changed in the last couple of days?
It is not. And first, I hope that Senator McConnell gets better. I've known him most of my life. I wish him nothing but better health. But his response to all this is absolutely unacceptable, and it shows how this Republican-run Senate is just broken. It is a total lack of accountability, the belief that he has no boss and answers to no one. His boss are the people of Kentucky that elect him, and he refuses to do a video for them, to call into your show or anyone else's, just to show people that he's okay and capable of doing his job. And when John Thune, who's supposed to be in charge of that Senate, is asked to show some leadership and ensure that Mitch McConnell has capacity, he says, not my issue. That's between Senator McConnell and the people of Kentucky. None of your viewers could not show up for work for 2 months, not call their boss, not explain what's going on. It is unacceptable. And listen, the legacy of Mitch McConnell, he wanted it to be the longest serving majority leader. He wanted it to be, I guess, building up the Republican Party in Kentucky. It's going to be how he handled this period of time. And I hope that he is one of the reasons that we get term limits. I tell you what, I'd even name the bill after him.
All right. Well, just very quickly, he has been calling people. He called Scott Jennings, or the CNN contributor here at CNN, who's from Kentucky. I'm wondering, have you tried reaching out to him, or what has that been like, the communications?
Yeah, I don't have the ability to reach out to him directly. We don't have each other's cell phones. But listen, if he can call and have a 17-minute conversation with Scott Jennings, he can have a 2-minute conversation with you. That's one of the reasons that these conspiracies are out there, because it's an absolute refusal to communicate with the public. But Pamela, think about this. Rand Paul admitted the other day that for 2 months he hasn't heard from his fellow Republican senator from Kentucky. That's worrisome.
All right, Governor Andy Beshear, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it.